Hi, fourth grade. We are here to finish There's an Owl in the Shower. This is the last, these are the last 3 chapters of the book. We're going to read them all today and finish up. So thanks for tuning in. We're going to see what happens. Where we last left off was kind of exciting. The end of chapter 14 ended like this. "Let's eat," called Borden. Cindy folded the newspaper, and as she did, she closed it over an insert she had not read. "For an individual or corporation killing or possessing a threatened or endangered species, the penalty is a $200,000 fine and up to 1 year in prison." Leon does not know that Barty is a spotted owl, but Borden and Sally do, and none of the characters in the book are aware of the penalty for having an endangered species. The spotted owl is an endangered species. So the author, Jean Craighead Moore, she's doing this special technique where she's letting the reader, us, know about something that none of the characters are aware of. So now we're going to find out what ends up happening. The court date is getting closer and closer, and Leon really wants Barty to fly around the courtroom and land on his shoulder and show everybody that he's an owl lover now. But the problem is, if anyone in the courtroom recognizes Barty as a spotted owl, then Leon will be busted, and that's a lot of money and going to jail for a year. Also sounds pretty horrible. So, let's see. Chapter 15. Paul James. The Vice President of the United States was coming to Fresta. Borden heard the news at the gas station and called Pop. "He wants to talk to the lumbermen and the environmentalists," he said. "He hopes we can have trees, owls, and cutters." "He's crazy, isn't he?" "Oh, I don't know," said Leon. Borden looked at the telephone to make certain it was working correctly. "When's he coming?" Leon asked. "Monday," Borden answered. "Good," Leon said. "I'll bring Barty. The VP will see that cutters care about owls. Except the kind that take our jobs." I wouldn't do that if I were you, Pop." Borden's voice was sharp with urgency. "Why not? He's cute. The vice president will like him. Points from the lumbermen." Borden was about to tell Leon that Barty was a spotted owl, but he thought better of it. He just might wring his neck or chop off his head. Even though Leon loved Barty the barred owl, he could never love Barty the spotted owl. "Speak up, Borden. Why shouldn't I take Barty to meet the vice president?" "We put a red tail on him." "Yeah, looks good." "Yeah, maybe owl lovers won't like it." "So much the better." That wasn't going to scare Pop. He thought again. "The conservation officer won't let you keep him," Borden said in desperation. "Sally said that birds of prey are protected by law. He'll be confiscated." "What kind of nonsense is that?" said Pop. "He'd be dead if we hadn't saved him." "Pop," said Borden, "I'm coming home at 4 o'clock. I really want to let Barty go. I want to take him back to where I found him." "No siree," said Leon, and hung up the phone. As Borden biked homeward at full speed, he came upon Sally walking home through the town park. "Want a ride, Sal?" he called. "You bet," she said. "And you and I need to talk." "We sure do. I mean, we really do. We have got to figure out how to save Barty and Pop. He loves that owl, you know." "I do know. And think what his friends will do when they find out he has a spotted owl." Borden's eyes widened. "Oh, wow," he said. "Let's go to the Pizza Palace," Sally suggested. "Maybe we can figure out what to do before we go home." Sally wiggled onto the handlebars, and Borden wheeled past the gazebo, now trimmed with red, white, and blue garlands. Posters were being hung from the trees and lampposts. "People, not owls. Support your local spotted owl. From a rope. Old growth cannot be replaced." The bandmaster and the town electrician were setting up equipment for the band and the speakers. Police barriers were stacked by the gazebo. Strangers were everywhere. Secret Service, whispered Sally. This is big stuff. Off to themselves in a corner of the Pizza Palace, Borden suggested that he take Barty to the mountain while Sally lured Pop into the garage to paint protest posters. No, Sally said. That's deceitful. Let's ask Judge Kramer to hold the hearing tomorrow. When that's over, Pop might let him go. I doubt it, said Borden. I doubt both things. Judge Kramer changing the date and Pop letting Barty go when it's over. They sipped sodas, nodded to their classmates, and worried. The door opened and Paul James came into the Pizza Palace. He saw Sally and Borden, smiled, and walked over to their table. Ordinarily, Borden wouldn't have tolerated sitting at the same table with a science teacher, but now he was desperate. Won't you sit down, Mr. James? Borden asked. How's the owl? He said as he pulled up his chair. He looks very fancy in his new red tail, Sally answered. Can he fly? Yes, she said. The imped feathers work. He can fly across the living room to the couch. Barty won the battle of big trees in our house, Borden said. Pop the owl hater is now Pop the owl lover. But does he also love spotted owls? Paul James asked. Sally had told him they had a barred owl. Well, said Borden, wishing he had never spoken. He probably doesn't. You should tell him the barred owl is part of the old-growth forests, too, Paul James said. It's not just spotted owls we want to save, but barred owls, flying squirrels, butterflies, martins, deer, ancient trees, clear water, and salmon. And the silence, said Borden. It's pretty nice in the old growth. Here's a picture of Mr. James sitting at the table with them in the Pizza Palace. And the silence, said Borden, is pretty nice in the old growth. Yes, it is. I have to admit that the silence is the greatest value of the old growth to me. But it has other values to other people. Lumber, hunting, recreation, fishing. Whatever it is, the giant trees are running out. Your Pop may have to train for a new job, Paul James said. Yeah, that's what Jimmy's Pop is doing, Borden said. He can't fish anymore. No salmon. He's taking a course in making recreational boats. There are lots of pretty rivers and lakes in this country. Paul James nodded his approval and rose. Well, I've got to be going, he said. I want to get my research papers ready to give to the Vice President's committee. He looked down at the two young kids with great understanding. The people of Fresta were suffering for something that never should have happened. The ravaging of the old-growth forests. These kids were the victims. Well, I'm glad your owl can fly, was all he could think to say. By the way, Mr. James, Sally said as the teacher turned to leave, when is your hearing? I don't have one, he answered. I paid the $50 fine. The fight was ridiculous, and I'm sorry for it. He patted Sally's shoulder and left the restaurant. Now what do we do? Said Borden, getting up from the table. Go home, said Sally, and tell Pop he has a spotted owl and that we have to let him go. That is the end of chapter